Greetings, Mindcrafters, and welcome to another exciting Minecraft episode. My name is Kimberly Quinn, and I am here in northern Vermont in my cozy living room with a fire crackling. I just like to give you the visual. It's pretty chilly outside, which is sort of normal for now, right? And we had not a big snow. It's exaggerating. We had a beautiful snow this morning, kind of probably I don't know 4 or 5 inches, just sparkly and gorgeous and yeah, so we have it going on here. It's just snuggly Sunday. It is at this minute of actual recording, and so today I'm inspired once again by Sarah Von Bretnick, who I adore. In my friend circle with Oprah, neither one of them know, but I really have loved reading her book, Simple Abundance. The whole name is Simple Abundance: Daybook of Comfort and Joy. And I read it in my 30s mostly, and kind of revisiting it now. And I remember then, I had young kids and everything. And it was just literally like you read one page, maybe a page and a half. And just, if you have a different book that's like that too, that just gets you going, just such a positive uplift. It was really quite a part of my routine with my hot tea way back in the day. So anyway, I'm inspired with her by her today because she talks about working with what you've got. And I love that. And which for me feeds into, of course, gratitude, because only when we're truly grateful for what we have does more, kind of flow in. That's just how it works. And so, excuse me, what Sarah does on each one of her days, it goes the whole. Actually, I didn't check if it had a leap year, and there is leap year this year. But anyway, it's every day of the calendar year, and she talks about working with what you got, and she typically starts with a quote by someone. So this is Raina Marie Rilke, and she starts out by saying, "If your everyday life seems poor, don't blame it. Blame yourself. Admit to yourself that you are not enough of a poet to call forth its riches, because for the Creator there is no poverty and no more indifferent place." It's interesting because that that lovely little quote by Rainer Maria Rilke really took me straight to 4-year-olds, whether they're in the sandbox or it's Christmas and they're more interested in the boxes and the toys, or they're making tree forts. It's maybe 6, 7, 8-year-olds making tree forts in the living room on a snow day, just making stuff out of sticks. I mean, you can't, young children. You watch young children. Um, before other stuff enters into it all, right? Just they very naturally, the part that says, call forth its riches, little 3, 4, 5, 6, 7s can call forth the riches from anywhere. And that's, today's world. I remember way back in the day, I'm officially a fabulous 59 now. And back in the 70s, um, when I'm thinking of, I used to, play with my rooftop friend, and kids played much later back then. It was, I went to a bigger place than where we are now in a small town, Vermont, which I absolutely love. Great place to raise kids. But when I went to a bigger middle school and, and their bigger elementary school and all that, you saw kids in school. When you came home on the bus, you had a whole different crew. So it was also easier, I think, to be caught playing, make pretend something in the woods. But we did play for longer. We definitely played for longer, and we just, gosh, I mean, we didn't have a dime in our pockets. Both of our families are very middle class. I don't mean it that way. Very middle class. But back in the day, you're not old enough to babysit even when you're 10. We never had a dime, and we had the best time in the woods behind ShopRite playing. Well, now you can't say Indians anymore, but that's what we called it back then. And we made all kinds of um, forts, and the riches. There were grapevines all over the place back there, and we just, our imaginations just took off. They took off, and we did all kinds of scenarios. We created plays. We did these little like skits with our other friends. We built go-karts. I remember building a go-kart. We were 11 or 12ish, and we just found whatever we could in everybody's garages. I mean, riches. We just felt over the top abundant. So with that first quote, that's where it took me to kids, because even the 11, 12 range, at least back in the day, because we would get off the bus and get right to it. Ice skating in the winter, and we just, making, well, now that you don't make, they say they're dangerous. We never knew that back then. We used to make these pretty elaborate snow caves that if they collapsed on you, probably wouldn't have been good. But we did live to tell the tale. But the thing is, um, children have no problem calling forth the riches out of anywhere. And so we're transferring this now to grown-ups. And I like how she says, just comes right out and says it, like, you have no one to blame but yourself, because there is meaning, deep meaning, all over the place, and it's just everywhere. And abundance is also everywhere. I'm certainly being careful. I'm not saying, obviously, there are life curveballs happen, and you know big hard things happen. We're not talking about going through something really tough. We're talking about the day to day, and and the whining and the woes, and not realizing that there are riches everywhere. And so Sarah starts out by talking about how many of us have kind of secretly believe that if we wait until this, wait until that, wait till things calm down a bit, wait until I have this, do that, whatever, that it's then that we can be happy and start enjoying life. Tomorrow we'll get the time to enjoy ourselves. Tomorrow, when everything comes down, tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. Well, I think we all know how that goes, right? Duh, 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 and then you're dead, right? And Loretta LaRoche, one of my favorite comedians, does a whole thing with that, actually. So putting off our life minutes, our present, we can't really put off our life minutes. If we're not spending our life minutes as if they're cash, and we're sort of delaying what makes our heart sing, delaying, what desires, then this is not really a good pattern to get into, because, and obviously there's a whole spectrum of this. It's that Mediterranean cruise you wanted, and you can't afford it right now. Well, then you have to save. We're not talking about that. We're talking about heart's desires, and doing whatever kind of little changes, splashing paint on a wall, repurposing things in the house to something new for minimal cost. It's because it's exciting and it's creative, and it involves self-expression. There's all kinds of things, and we often think that there's all kinds of later. Like, later is this endless thing, and here's the deal. I mean, there's no guarantee that there's even a tomorrow, and I'm as positive gets. It's just the truth, and this is why it's so important to realize that happiness is not something we want to put off. And in a different book that I use for my Minecraft class, The Happiness Advantage, Sean Akers, the author, does a whole thing on this. A lot of times, people are pushing happiness right up and over the horizon, and they think, oh, once I'm successful, then I'll be happy. Well, it's the exact opposite. It's once we're happy, then we'll be successful. And you can define success in a million other ways, or even talk about the repurposing stuff in the house and getting rid of tons of stuff in the house. Because I'm not talking about money here. Certainly, if you want to do big renovations, I wouldn't put that off either if you have the means to do it. But we're not talking about money necessarily at all, because a lot can be done with a little. A lot can be done with a little. And also, we can getting rid of stuff doesn't cost anything. Can completely open up a space where now all of a sudden you hit a couple of yard sales, you find somebody that they didn't bring them joy anymore, and it fits beautifully in the space, that you just cleared out, and now it kind of accentuates everything. We're talking about, don't put that stuff off, and definitely you don't want to live in clutter. So she says life is always movement, always change, always unforeseen circumstances. There will always be something trying to grab your attention. The phone, the kids, she talks about, all the work stuff. And the fact is, life is in session now. And I've also talked about this in different episodes about, there's home care. We're talking about the splashing paint on a wall and getting rid of stuff, and repurposing old coffee tables, or finding a yard sale something, repurposing that. And there's also hang on. Sorry, I lost my train again for a second. Okay, so talking about home care, and also the self care, because we often put off things that aren't even big. Like, maybe feel like my sometimes, and I'm not super into hair, but I do like it to be kind of, I'm a fluff and go kind of lady because I'm very active and I'm so whatever. So sometimes if too much time goes by, I will literally, because I have a short haircut, I will look like, a palm tree in recovery from a hurricane. It starts to sprout all over. And then I just notice, like, I just don't feel it. I don't feel good. I'm not even that vain. It just starts to like bother me. So why put that stuff off? Or massage is a little more, maybe some people might say frivolous. It's definitely not frivolous if you've got injuries and such like that. But let's say you're treating yourself for your birthday. Why put that stuff off? Maybe give yourself a massage for your unbirthday. Pick a random day. And to not put on. And so often what I say to people is, if you pretend like you have an abscessed tooth, if you've ever had one, any kind of tooth pain, life cannot go forward until you deal with it. I mean, real tooth pain, not just a little something. And so the world will continue to spin, work will happen, the family stuff will be taken care of. It just will, because you've got to get yourself there, because your teeth are so close to your thinking spot that you can't do anything else. You can't stand it. Well, so schedule some time for you, and to make to do that decoupaging, to paint the walls and give yourself a new kitchen without a lot of money, with some new artwork and getting rid of stuff. Maybe splurge on um, a new baking dish because you've used the same old ratty thing for 25 years. I just did that actually. Cost like $15, and I've made me so so happy. But something like that. So we schedule it like a dentist, and the abscess tooth is kind of extreme, but schedule it like a haircut, because especially I remember as a young mom, I wasn't that good at that then. I was, obviously I was immersed in my children. I loved every single minute of being home with them, and that was probably the hardest time to be able to carve even so much as a half an hour out for myself. I have a wonderfully supportive husband. I didn't ask. I didn't, and I just was in such the mode of that it's very easy to let yourself go and feel frumpy and everything else. I mean, thankfully I walked all over with the kids, but it starts to feel frumpy. Same old jeans for 3 years, and same old bras and same old everything, and splurge on a bra. That's so ridiculous. I mean, I'm not saying to spend recklessly. I'm just saying something that's inexpensive, that makes you feel, new underwear feel good. So this is the whole point. And oftentimes we push happiness over the horizon, whether it's new underwear and a new bra or new toothbrush, whether it's taking a weekend away with your partner or by yourself. Again, we're not talking about luxury necessarily. If you can do that, great, don't put that off either. But there are plenty of inexpensive ways to have a weekend, to go away, or with a friend and stay with them, or whatever. But to treat yourself really well, treat yourself like your own best friend, and really feel that inner value and do all these things, because, as they say, life is not a dress rehearsal. This is the big game. So then Sarah says, so what are you going to do about it? Now that we have this awareness, we can stop waiting for life to be, um, whatever you're all set, the quotes, or whatever all set means for you. When I get the new job, when I move, when I get out of this tiny apartment and do this, when I move, get a new partner, when I get a partner at all, when we have kids, when we make the renovations, when we whatever, when I have this amount of money in my savings account, da 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 da, and to just stop all the waiting, because meanwhile life is going by. That is what we're talking about. So she says we can accept, bless, give thanks, and get going. Today we can begin to call forth the riches from our everyday life. And you know what, this makes me think of that the Harry Potter episode. I love Harry Potter. If you haven't seen Harry Potter, read the books, I read all seven of them, I think, right? Seven. They split one into two. Anyway, there's the Mirror of Erised, which is in the first book, Erised, which is desire spelled backwards. I learned that from a student of mine in Minecraft. I've known all these years, I've read the books, seen all the movies like 1,000 times. Didn't know that till last semester. Erised, desire spelled backwards. So young Harry's like 11 or something, goes and finds this mirror and sits and stares at it. If you know about Harry Potter, even if you haven't read the books or seen it, he's an orphan. Both parents are killed by the evil guy, Voldemort. And so he's been an infant since he was about a year old. And so by sitting and looking in this mirror, he could see his parents behind him. And of course, his heart's yearning for his mama and daddy, of course. And he sees them and they're moving. They're putting like they're in the reflection part. They're putting their hand on his shoulder. And he's all warmed up. So he goes and sits in front of it more and more and more and more and more and more, spending lots of time there until Dumbledore, the headmaster, comes up behind him and basically says he's going to move it because this isn't healthy. Because you don't want to stare in that mirror and see what you're missing, what you're desiring, and forget to live. And he said the happiest person on earth is the person who can look into that mirror of Erised and see himself exactly as he is. Exactly as he is. And in fact, the other part of the story is before Dumbledore says that, I forgot to interject this. Harry runs and gets his friend Ron Weasley, his roommate and best friend. He says, Ron, check this out. You can see my parents. Check this out. You can see my parents. And Ron comes and sits in front of it and sees that he's the Quidditch captain, which is in Wizard World kind of like a combination of lacrosse and I don't know. But it's all his desires. That he's head boy, which is kind of like being an RA or something. And he's not seeing Harry's parents, he's seeing what his heart desires. And Dumbledore then tells Harry that the happiest person is a person who doesn't see all that stuff, but just themselves exactly as they are. And I love that message because it is how it works with gratitude. And as I think anyone who's listening or has listened before knows that I practice gratitude every single day of my life, every morning of my life in a gratitude journal. I am grateful for, I am grateful for, I am grateful for, with those words I am grateful for. And it really is true that it's life changing because by writing 3 things every day with the words I am grateful for, the neurons actually are creating a new neural pathway, a positive neural pathway. After about 21 days, because habits are not made or broken, they shift. After about 21 days, the brain automatically begins to see more positive in your day, even if you're not conscious of it. It just sort of, and then simultaneously, the negative Nelly neural pathways start to fade, which is called neural pruning. So the thing with the gratitude is the more we practice it, the more we see what's going well in our lives, the more we acknowledge all the abundance that we already have, the more that comes to us. And because the thing is that the universe responds to every single thought we think, every single thought expands. So if we're coming from this place of scarcity mindset with what we don't have and what we're going to do this then and wait till this and wait till that so I can do this, so I can do that, that's all scarcity thinking. Waiting and putting off life because what we're missing is all scarcity thinking. And all it's going to attract is more lack. That's how it goes. And so we want to have a situation where you look in your own mirror, let's say the mirror of Erised, and you see yourself, no matter what your house looks like, no matter what your clothes look like, no matter what you look like. That's another thing people put off. Oh, I'm going to go get a new wardrobe when I get thinner. No, go get some new outfits now, and when you get thinner, get another outfit because you just don't want to put it off. This is the big game. Happiness is right here in this moment, and we do not want to keep pushing it, right up and over the horizon. So basically, Sarah's talking about, the zest for life and grabbing life by the ass, and I'm all about it. Carpe diem, right? Like, live deliberately. I'm all about it. Minecraft is all about it. So she says, stop waiting. It procrastination robs us of our life minutes, right? So she says, call a friend for lunch or start to read, get a novel, write, organize stuff or write a novel. Try out a new recipe for dinner. That's one of my favorite ones. I love to cook, and it's so easy, especially in the winter in northern Vermont. It gets so easy to get in a cooking rut, for sure. Like, you just make the same thing because it's easy, you're tired, you have the ingredients, whatever. It's really fun to break out of that once in a while and change it up and do something entirely different, especially with like a different ethnicity that takes different, spices and seasonings. She even says pick up like a craft, like needlepoint, all these things, and then she says the first steps in a journey always, are always the most difficult to take. And then she says life begets life. Energy creates energy. The famous actress Sarah Bernhardt reminds us. That's who said that. Life begets life. Energy creates energy. It is by spending oneself that we become rich. And that actually brings me to Wayne Dyer talks about that. So many people talk about that. That we're given these gifts in life, but you call it God. For me, it's God, source of the capital S, higher power, creator of all things, the universe, whatever. We're all given our own unique gifts, and really, the gift we give back is what we do with those gifts. I mean, that's just true. We all have such unique gifts. Looking out at snow everywhere outside of on the deck right now, and the snowflakes is that analogy, right? Because there are no two that are the same, and there's no. This sounds cheesy, but it's actually very true, right? No two of us are the same either, and to really, really sort of sit in that place, feeling that sense of abundance, feeling your own gifts, and finding a way to really embrace that happiness today by doing something with what you've already got, one way or another. So that's it. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from the beautiful, sparkly northern Vermont in January. Have a mindful day.